the final spring season here at ASAN in Nashville, Tennessee winding down before our big relocation to Japan, there really aren't many trees left in the garden. There is one tree still standing, however, with a backstory as powerful as its appearance. This Douglas fir, collected by Richard Lee just outside of Denver, Colorado, was the first tree to arrive at ASAN when the garden opened back in 2018. At the time, it was in need of repotting, and so our intensive students assisted in this process, shifting it to a more suitable container. ASAN's apprentice at the time, Cameron Carlson, dubbed this stately bonsai Little Lonely Doug, an homage to the famed Big Lonely Doug, a massive Douglas fir located in the Gordon River Valley, about 10 kilometers north of Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. With our upcoming move to Kyoto, Japan, I wanted to ensure the legacy of this powerful bonsai, and thought what better way to do so than by donating it to the U.S. National Bonsai and Penjing Museum in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. In preparation for its transfer to DC, Little Lonely Doug was restyled and repotted with the help of Marianne Duhamel of the Montreal Botanical Garden and several other ASAN intensive students, making it one of the final big projects to be completed at ASAN in Nashville. In the heart of Washington, D.C., nestled within the lush grounds of the United States National Arboretum, lies a hidden gem of botanical artistry and cultural heritage, the U.S. National Bonsai and Penjing Collection. This remarkable collection is a testament to the art of Japanese bonsai and its Chinese counterpart, Penjing, showcasing centuries of horticultural mastery and artistic expression. In celebration of America's bicentennial in 1976, as a gesture of goodwill and cultural exchange, the government of Japan presented a gift of 53 bonsai specimens to the United States. Over the years, the collection has flourished, growing steadily with contributions from North American bonsai masters and the addition of a Penjing collection from China. Today, it boasts more than 300 specimens, each a masterpiece of horticultural and artistic skill. These exquisite trees are showcased in 3 pavilions and a special exhibits gallery, where they rotate through display tables and pedestals, offering visitors a dynamic and ever-changing experience. Surrounding the bonsai and companion art forms are the museum's gardens, meticulously designed to enhance the visitor's experience. They serve not just as a backdrop, but as an integral part of the overall aesthetic, inviting visitors to immerse themselves in the beauty of the surroundings. The museum's current curator, Michael James, was kind enough to explain the history of some of the magnificent bonsai and Penjing on display.
So This Japanese black pine right here was donated by Saiichi Suzuki from Daijuan Nursery, and it is tree number one in our collection. It was tree number one because at the time of the gift of 53 trees from the country of Japan to the United States, that was for our bicentennial. It was believed that this tree was 200 years old at that time, the same age as our country. Saiichi Suzuki, he's given credit for the decandling technique on black pines. Since they're a double flush, every one of these candles will be removed like Saiichi Suzuki would have done. So the Yamaki pine right now is sitting on some cedar blocks rather than its normal sapele slab because the mulch bed was just pulled away from it this weekend. As our temperatures warm, we remove the mulch that keeps the roots from freezing over the winter, and it's a large tree, very cold hardy, so it can obviously withstand our winter temperatures. But this is the Yamaki pine. It's 399 years old this year. Next year will be its 400th birthday. And this is the tree that survived the bombing of Hiroshima. This tree was collected by Kenichi Oguchi in Itaogawa Prefecture. So it is Yamadori, and so I like to believe that this is the original Itaogawa from its source. And this tree actually became the National Bonsai and Penjing Museum's logo, as well as the National Bonsai Foundation's logo. It was a stylized interpretation of this tree. So this is not a Yamadori, although the main tree was grown in the ground, but this is all grafted. So this is grafted with Itaogawa by Yorushibada's nursery, and every single branch right above a gin, you can see that there's a graft union, hidden very well though. It's not obvious at all, but it has that fine cultivar of Itaogawa foliage. This Pinus densiflora, Japanese red pine, very similar to the black, but the foliage is a little bit more delicate. The candles aren't quite as strong. But this tree was given by the imperial household of Japan when the gift of what was originally going to be 50 trees, once the imperial household found out about that gift, it then offered 3 additional trees to the U.S. This was one of them from the Imperial Garden itself. And many years I was told that it was one of a pair. Then this past year at the Kokofu, the Imperial household displayed a Japanese red pine, very similar in height and bit wild styled. So possibly the sister tree of this one. Yeah, so this is a great Native American species. The mountains of West Virginia, all up through Pennsylvania, New York State, the coasts of Maine, Acadia National Forest. These pitch pines can be found, and they've got incredibly flaky bark. They can have great, beautiful dead wood here. Like Yuji Yoshimura collected this one, and another interesting thing, it is a 2-flush or multi-flush pine, but it's a little bit more finicky than the black pines because of its ability to back bud so easily, which is probably a response to forest fires. When the fire comes through, it's able to push new growth right off the trunk. That's great for forest fires. It's also great for bonsai, but it will push buds where it's not wanted. So you have to really stay on top of where you want the growth and where you don't want the growth, and balancing that growth through needle plucking or rubbing off and removal of branches that you don't want.
In addition to temperate climate bonsai, the museum also houses an impressive collection of tropical bonsai from around the world. Many of these famous specimens were created by well-known professionals and enthusiasts, with one even having been donated as a gift by the CIA. The Chinese pavilion at the museum is home to an impressive array of Chinese-styled penjing and pensai, many with whimsical forms and unique histories.
I think a great example of penjing is this black pine from Dr. Yi-San Wu, who was a wealthy banker in Hong Kong, but he was what he called a literate farmer, and he was of that literati class that influences penjing and bonsai, but the expressiveness of penjing is really awesome. So this twisted, abruptly turning, changing directions of the trunk, and this long extension of the primary branch. Oftentimes it's like an arm coming out to welcome you. So I think this is a great example of Penjing. So here in the early spring, when we can only bring out our conifers until the last frost has passed, we have 3 formal uprights here. One from our North American collection and 2 from our Japanese collection. This one here, though, was donated by Saburo Kato. In 1998, Saburo Kato came to Washington, D.C., and he brought his student with him, and that was the Prime Minister of Japan at the time. And Prime Minister Obuchi gave this tree, or presented this tree at an official state visit to the Clinton administration. So it's an Ezo spruce. He collected this with his father in the Kanashiro Islands north of Hokkaido. They would go there for collecting firewood for the winter, but also bringing bonsai back on boat. And they really were influential in figuring out how to grow Ezo spruce in bonsai culture. So it's early spring here, and a lot of people are wondering where all the deciduous trees are, because it's a lot of evergreens and conifers out in the collection right now. Well, this is us doing our, what we call like our horticultural spring dance, where we bring out all the trees to harden off in the spring. We have tender leaves that emerge under glass because we give our trees a dormancy, but it's a light winter and DC is warms up quick, so things leaf out under cover. We have to harden them off. We had everything outside this past week, and they were hardening off perfectly under partial shade. The leaves are toughening up, acclimating to the weather, thickening, and greening up under the sun. Well, we have our first, or hopefully our last 2 frosts coming tonight and tomorrow. So we have to move everything back in, and then in 2 days, everything goes back out again. But, you know, it has hardened off, so it should be able to go right out on display. So this slab planting here, this Saike, was done by Mas Moriguchi, a contemporary of John Naka's. And you can see the influence of Goshen here. And it's a very popular specimen because when people come and see this, I mean, they're right in there in the forest. It's very easy to read that's a miniature forest.
During my time at the museum, I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Richard Olson, the Arboretum director, as well as many of the staff and volunteers who assist with the collections and grounds upkeep. It was quite a surreal experience being in the presence of bonsai with such history and provenance and the people who helped create them over the decades. It was also a pleasure working with Michael and his assistant Andy on a powerful crepe myrtle recently donated by Brussels Bonsai Nursery and its owner, McNeil.
I'll have to watch this wire close.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like next week.
Yeah.
With the crepe myrtle?
I'm going to try not to do too much detail.
Okay.
So it'll be on some of the primary branches, but very few secondary branches.
I know this thing's gonna, they thinking pretty fast, the crepe myrtles.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you let them, if they start extending. There we go. Wheels are gonna turn.
Maybe it will be either there or here.
The one
Actually, I
that's-
think it has to be on the front because it won't span the distance.
Okay.
So I think it's going to have to be on the front if it's used.
With the visit coming to an end, it was time to place Little Lonely Doug in his new position in the North American Pavilion at the U.S. National Arboretum. I owe a debt of gratitude to Richard Lee, the National Bonsai Foundation, and the U.S. National Arboretum for assisting in this process and allowing a lifelong goal of mine to come to fruition. Next time you're in Washington, D.C., please consider stopping by the Bonsai and Penjing collection at the Arboretum and saying hello to Little Lonely Doug. I have a feeling he won't be so lonely anymore in his new home.